The city looked different after midnight. Not brighter, not quieter, just more honest. Streetlights flickered like tired eyes struggling to stay open. The rain had ended an hour ago, but the pavement still held its memory. Wet, cold, reflective, like a heart that had cried and not yet dried. Cars passed occasionally, their tires hissing softly against the road, as if they too were trying not to disturb the silence. At the far end of Maple Street stood a small hotel most people barely noticed. Haven's Corner Hotel. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't famous, but it was warm. Inside, the smell of soup, coffee, and old wooden tables wrapped around anyone who entered like a fragile promise. You can rest here. Emma Collins stood behind the counter, rubbing her sore wrists. She was 22, but the long hours had already taught her lessons most people didn't learn until much later. Her shift had started at 4 in the afternoon, and now the clock above the kitchen door blinked 11:42 p.m. Almost done. Her shoes were worn thin, her apron had faded from too many washes, and her smile, though still kind, had learned how to hide exhaustion. Life had grown heavier lately. Her mother had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness. Her father had disappeared even earlier, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions. Now Emma was everything to her younger brother Noah, who still believed his sister could fix the world with patience and quiet strength. Rent, school fees, electricity bills. They never slept. Emma wiped the last empty table near the window and glanced at the door, silently hoping the night would end quietly. That was when the bell above the door rang. Cold air slipped inside first. Then came the woman. She moved slowly, carefully, like someone who had learned not to rush life anymore. Her coat was old and gray, slightly too big for her fragile frame. Her shoes were clean, but worn down by years of walking. Silver hair escaped loosely from behind her ears, and her hands trembled faintly as she closed the door. Emma noticed immediately what others often didn't. This woman carried loneliness, not poverty. The woman looked around the nearly empty hotel and chose the quietest table in the corner, far from the counter, far from conversation. The same table no one liked because it felt forgotten. Emma picked up a menu and walked over. "Good evening," she said gently. "Welcome." The woman looked up. Her eyes were pale blue, tired but kind. "Good evening, dear," she replied. "I hope I'm not too late." Emma smiled. "You're just in time." The woman exhaled, as if she had been holding her breath all evening. "What can I get you tonight?" Emma asked. The woman studied the menu for a long moment, then closed it. "Just a bowl of soup," she said softly. "The simplest one you have." Emma nodded. "And," the woman added hesitantly, "a cup of hot water, if that's all right." "Of course," Emma replied without a second thought. As Emma turned to leave, the woman spoke again, almost whispering. "Thank you for not rushing me." The words stopped Emma mid-step. She turned back, met the woman's eyes, and smiled, not out of habit, but out of understanding. The soup was ready within minutes. Emma placed it carefully on the table. Without saying anything, she also added a small piece of bread from the kitchen. The woman noticed immediately. "I didn't order bread," she said. Emma shrugged lightly. "It's warm. It belongs with the soup." From across the room, Emma watched quietly. The woman didn't eat quickly. She held the spoon as if it carried memories. Between bites, she closed her eyes, letting the warmth settle inside her. The woman looked up with a faint smile. "It tastes like the soup my daughter used to make," she said. Emma paused. "Used to?" The woman nodded slowly. "She passed away 10 years ago. Cancer." "I'm so sorry," Emma whispered. "So was she," the woman replied gently. "She was only 36. Silence settled between them. Not awkward, just heavy. "My name is Margaret Hale," the woman finally said. "I come here every Tuesday night." Emma blinked. "Every Tuesday?" Margaret smiled sadly. This was her favorite place. She worked nearby. We used to come here together after her shifts. Without thinking, Emma pulled out the chair across from her and sat down. For the first time that night, Margaret truly looked at her. "And what's your name, dear?" "Emma." Margaret nodded slowly. "You remind me of her. Same tired eyes, same kindness." Emma felt her throat tighten. They sat together for a moment. Two strangers, bound by invisible threads of loss. When Margaret finished her soup, she reached into her worn handbag and placed a few crumpled bills on the table. Emma glanced at them and froze. It wasn't enough. Before Emma could speak, Margaret said quietly, "I know it's not much. I only buy what I can afford." Emma gently pushed the money back. "It's okay," she said softly. "Tonight, the meal is paid for." Margaret's hands trembled. "No," she whispered. "I don't want charity." Emma leaned forward, her voice shaking. "This isn't charity, it's respect." Margaret stared at her. Tears slipped down her wrinkled cheeks. "I haven't heard that word in years," she said. When Margaret stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Emma," she said, "may I tell you something?" Emma nodded. "I don't come here just for the food," Margaret said. "I come because this is the only place where someone still looks at me like I exist." Emma's eyes burned. Margaret reached into her bag again and handed Emma a folded note. "Open this after your shift," she said. Before Emma could respond, Margaret stepped into the night and disappeared. At 12:05 a.m., Emma locked the door. Her hands shook as she opened the note. Inside was a handwritten message. "Kindness is not measured by money, but by the moment you choose to see someone." Behind it was a bank receipt, a donation Margaret had made earlier that day to a children's hospital. At the bottom, a final line read, "If life ever feels too heavy, remember, you are never invisible." Emma stepped outside, but Margaret was gone. Only the quiet stars remained. That night, Emma cried, not from sadness, but from understanding. That kindness always returns, and sometimes the brightest light appears after midnight.